Welcome back to the channel. I know it has been a very long time since I made a video, but we're doing something completely different today. We're going to be booking the Survivor Series War Games match, the men's War Games match, the Bloodline versus the OG Bloodline. I'm recording this the day after SmackDown has just aired and CM Punk has been announced as the 5th member of the OG Bloodline team, which is probably makes the most sense out of all of the other options. If it wasn't going to be a 4v4, it probably makes the most sense to be CM Punk being the OG Paul Heyman guy and just having some sort of connections with some of the people in the match, especially Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns debuted at Survivor Series 12 years ago to help CM Punk win the WWE title or retain it at least. So it's kind of full circle in that way at least anyways. But we are going to be booking that match as if what I want to see happen next Saturday night. Not what I think is going to happen, but what I personally want to see happen. And that is what I'm going to be doing today. So let's get straight into it. Also, if you like the wrestling content, then make sure to subscribe. I will try and do some more wrestling content because I've always wanted to do wrestling content, but I've never just known what to do. But I'm more than happy to do these fantasy booking kind of things. So yeah, let's get into it. So I think the crowd need to get hyped into the match. So we're going to start the match with Jey Uso and Jacob Fatu. I think those two starting the match would be great. I think they've definitely got tension between them, especially with Jey Uso on that episode of SmackDown. They definitely could go toe-to-toe with each other. It'd be a great match between them as well. So I think those two should start the match. They're pretty even affair, but Jacob starts to overpower Jey eventually. I think Jacob is definitely going to be one of the MVPs of this match. Definitely going to be a massive help to the new bloodline and how that they can potentially dominate the match going forward. So those two start the match. They go back and forth, hit a few super kicks here and there. You know Jey Uso. Jacob Fatu eventually starts to get the upper hand, and that's where Tama Tonga comes in, and he is the next member to join the match, and he starts the beat down on Jey Uso. Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga beating down Jey Uso. He can't really do much more until Jimmy Uso is the next man to join the match. Jimmy Uso runs down and he helps out his brother. He takes on Jacob Fatu, he takes on Tama Tonga, and we finally get a real proper Usos reunion there in that match. It's currently Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso versus Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. Eventually though, Jacob Fatu is Jacob Fatu and he starts to dominate the match again until the infamous Tangaloa starts to come in, and he is the third man to enter the match, and he starts coming in, and the Usos start to lose a bit more of their power again. Jacob Fatu once again just orchestrating, letting the Tongans do what they want to the Usos while he sits back, takes a breather until Sami Zayn joins the fray, and he comes down to the ring and he starts beating down on Jacob Fatu. Maybe Jacob Fatu has an equalizer in Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn, the ultimate underdog, going against the dominant factor in this match. The Tongans start to get overpowered by the Usos. That's no match there. And then eventually, Bronson Reed is the next man into the match. He comes and completely changes the landscape of this match. He's taking man out left, right and centre until eventually we get to the first big spot of the night. Bronson Reed climbs all the way to the top of the cage, and an awaiting Jimmy Uso is just laying there out of it at the bottom and hits a top of the cage tsunami from the top of the War Games cage. Jimmy Uso is completely out of the match for the rest of the match. He is gone. He's stretched out of the ring and he is wheeled past a Roman Reigns who looks visibly worried for his cousin. So yeah, Jimmy Uso completely out of the match. Bronson Reed has done an absolute madness and taken him completely out. After that though, it is now time for CM Punk to be the fourth man to join the match. He comes in and he goes straight after Jacob Fatu, straight after Bronson Reed, but there's just too much dominance for Punk. His offense is short-lived and there's just not really much he can do against these two forces until Seth Rollins turns up with a chair and hits Bronson Reed straight in the back and continues to hit Bronson Reed straight in the back with this chair until Bronson gets out of the cage and Seth just takes him completely out of the building. They go battling through the building and Bronson Reed is now away from this picture, is now 4v4. Well, Solo and Roman aren't in yet, so it's still technically 3v3. But the big threat of Bronson Reed is currently out of the match. But just before Seth does leave with Bronson to go fight him, he has a little stare down with CM Punk to say, this is the last time I will ever help you out. And they kind of have a bit of tension there. So after that, it's now Solo's turn to join the fight, and Solo is coming down and he doesn't really do any offense at all. He lets Jacob do his bidding. He lets the Tongans do his bidding against CM Punk, Sami Zayn, and Jey Uso. Eventually, Solo gets involved and he starts having a stare down with Punk, and eventually those two go blow to blow. Solo doesn't want Jacob to get involved with this. Solo wants to take Punk out himself. Those two go at it, but eventually Punk starts getting the better of Solo. Sami Zayn and Jey Uso come back in, and now it's time, but eventually Jacob, he's had enough and he starts attacking CM Punk, and the OG Bloodline start to be overpowered again. But it is time for the OTC, Roman Reigns. It's time for the final man to enter the match. Let the War Games begin. It's run over the arena. The match has now officially begun, even though Bronson Reed and Jimmy Uso are no longer in this match. So yeah, Roman Reigns goes straight after Solo, taking him out, straight after the Tongans, taking them out. But Jacob Fatu actually starts to overpower Roman Reigns until eventually the New Bloodline start to take out Jacob Fatu and they start beating him down. And eventually, Jey Uso spears Jacob Fatu through the wall of the cage. The wall comes down. There is now a big gaping hole in the War Games cage. Jacob Fatu has been taken out by Jey Uso. Those two lay outside of the ring for a fair decent time. Bronson Reed actually tries to return. He starts coming back. He's beaten down though from Seth Rollins, but he finds his way. But Sami Zayn goes out of the big new hole in the cage and just goes after Bronson Reed, making sure he can't get back into this match. He gets weapons and he starts taking out Bronson Reed. And then Roman clears out both the Tongans himself. Those two are out completely. And now we get a three-way stare down of Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Solo Sikoa. Solo stands on one side, Punk and Roman stand on the other, and the three of them take a long stare. The fans don't know what's going to happen. Roman Reigns looks at Punk, Punk looks at Roman. They're ready to finally do some business together, until eventually Punk steps behind Roman Reigns and hits Roman with a low blow. The crowd go nuts. Punk has just hit Roman Reigns below the belt, a low blow. And Punk hits Roman with a GTS. Solo can't believe what he's seeing. And Punk, after he hits the GTS, he looks at Paul Heyman, gives him a little nod, and he leaves the match and he just walks to the back, leaving Roman Reigns on the ground, beaten, next to a waiting Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa grabs up the pieces of Roman Reigns and hits him with a few spikes and pins him 1, 2, 3. And the New Bloodline go over the OG Bloodline in War Games. Solo Sikoa pins Roman Reigns yet again. CM Punk is seen at the top of the ramp as this happens, and Paul Heyman walks away from Roman Reigns and goes and joins CM Punk. Clearly, there has been some sort of bidding going on here with Paul Heyman and CM Punk, and CM Punk has done a massive favour for Paul Heyman in taking out Roman Reigns, because Roman Reigns did not contact Paul Heyman and did not save him from Solo, and now Paul's a bit upset about that. So CM Punk has now taken Paul Heyman as his new wise man. Solo Sikoa goes over, they reign tall. Jacob Fatu eventually manages to get back into the ring. The Tongans get back into the ring. They all stand tall together. Bronson Reed is somewhere in the outside. He's not involved in this celebration. And it's not enough for Solo, and they continue to beat down on Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns has officially hit rock bottom. He's lost his tribe. He's lost his wise man. He's lost the War Games match against the New Bloodline. And he continues to get beaten down until, if you smell, it's The Rock. He walks down to the ring and the crowd goes crazy. The Rock is back again, and Solo and Jacob Fatu and the Tongans, they all back off from Roman. Roman's beaten down. The Rock gets into the ring and helps Roman Reigns to his feet, and they both stand opposite the New Bloodline. But it's short-lived. The Rock hits Roman Reigns with a rock bottom, completely popping the crowd off their feet, and he looks at Solo and Solo smiles. Solo takes off the Ula Fala and hands it to The Rock, and The Rock is now the tribal chief, and this has been the plan all along. Solo was never the tribal chief. He was always there to just get Roman Reigns to the point of rock bottom so The Rock could come in and take the mantle of tribal chief with his new tribe behind him. And then it cuts to black. That is it. That is the end of the show. And that is how I think. Well, no, that is how I want Survivor Series to go. I think this could go really well. I don't think if Roman's team wins, if the OG Bloodline win, then I don't know where the story goes from here. I think the story can continue a lot further on if this happens, and if Solo's Bloodline win and they go strong after this and they continue on what they're doing. But it also puts The Rock into the picture in a massive way, making him the new tribal chief, and potentially then going through to WrestleMania, and we see The Rock versus Roman Reigns, tribal chief versus original tribal chief, and Roman Reigns eventually gets that mantelpiece back when he beats The Rock at WrestleMania. But that is my thoughts on how it should go. What do you think? What do you think of my booking? How do you think how do you think it should go, and how do you want it to go? But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you'd enjoyed this, and if you want me to do more stuff like this, I'm very interested in booking the Royal Rumble going into January, maybe Saturday night's main event as well, maybe the Netflix's first episode of Raw. But yeah, I'm happy to do more wrestling content. I love wrestling, so make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you later.